Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel, back with another video 2 days in a row because this news just keeps on coming. So today I've got another huge bit of news, just like the San Francisco Shock news yesterday. The Seoul Dynasty have decided to drop a large portion of their roster. Make sure if I'm the first person you're hearing this from, you like, comment, subscribe and share, so I'll get straight into the news. So the Seoul Dynasty have just said goodbye to Seoul, Marvel, 2U and Animo. This means some big changes are coming in for the Seoul Dynasty. First of all, I'll cover Seoul because he didn't do a whole lot this previous season, mainly because he wasn't needed. When you've got a DPS line of Fits and Profit, you're probably not going to be needed much of the time anyway. You've got an absolute flex god and then a hit scan prowess. How are you going to find a space to play? It's going to be tough for Seoul to find a team because he didn't play pretty much whatsoever the previous season, so he's going to have to pop off in tryouts if anyone wants him. They might want him for his leadership, which we remember back from New York days, but other than that, it's going to be tough for him to find a spot. Mainly just because the competition's increased so much and there's so many great players that just fill the same role that he does and some. Alright, next up I'll mention 2U. Now 2U played all last season, thankfully, because we really needed them to play that off tank to actually succeed. But he wasn't that impressive. Often I actually noticed him as a weak spot of the team. I'm really excited to see what the Seoul Dynasty do with this tank position next season because they've kept Gesture, which I think is actually very similar to why they've kept Super on the San Francisco Shock. And this is because when we think back to Roadhog being meta for a brief period of time a couple of seasons ago, Gesture and Super were the people to pick that up. This would imply that these players are the ones that their team are going to have flexing onto the new tanks, onto the new characters that no one on their team really specializes on until someone gets really good. And I think that is going to be a very, very highly valued skill going into a season when there's only one tank role and no one really knows how it will operate. So that's about 2U, but a similar sort of story can go for Marvel. Now previously, in previous seasons, Marvel had been really good and I think it was kind of generally regarded that he was the better tank here, at least the more consistent one. But the previous season, I was not impressed with Marvel at all, to be honest. I thought Gesture was showing him up at many occasions, which is why I was so upset to see Marvel in when it came to playoffs. And dropping Marvel here actually really excites me for the future of the Seoul Dynasty, showing that they're not afraid to lose some parts that people thought were a stable foundation, because overall you'll kind of get the idea that I quite like these changes. I want to see the Seoul Dynasty make big moves because they didn't reach where they wanted to be last season, and it wasn't just an issue of picking up a few new players that needed to be done to push this team to their max. I think big changes needed to be made, and I'm happy that they are making them. Basically, I just think new life needs to be injected into some parts of these rosters, and I think these 4 players being dropped is at least quite a good start for it. Then finally there's Animo, who is probably out of all these players the one I was not disappointed by the most last season, because he put on quite a decent performance. He wasn't anything incredible, but he definitely wasn't a weak spot of this team. And I think this might just fit the trend of them trying to keep in some more flashy players and get a really good roster where they can reach some incredibly high peaks. Animo definitely could find a spot somewhere else if they want a stable main support and don't want someone flashy like Lee J Gong. I think Animo's a good fit for a team like that, and I'm going to be interested to see where he goes because I think he should find a spot. So there are all the players that have been dropped: Seoul, Marvel, 2U and Animo. So now I'll cover the players who are remaining and why I think they're remaining and if I think it's a good or a bad idea. So Gesture I've already spoken about. Now I'll cover the more obvious one as well: Profit. Profit was absolutely phenomenal last season, MVP candidate, and he's been an MVP candidate every time he's been in the league. The second you see Profit lose this roster is the second you can start be worried about the Seoul Dynasty, in my opinion. There's not a whole lot to say about Profit really. He's probably one of the most highly valued players in the league, and whoever has him has a shot at a title. And I think him remaining at the Seoul Dynasty is a great show that they're not just going to drop everything and hope for the best. So then we've got Fitz, and Fitz also had an absolutely incredible last season and also the season before that. People always talk about Profit on this roster, rightfully so. Profit is an animal, but Fitz here is absolutely incredible, astonishing as well. I mean, we knew he could play the ranged hit scan, and he played that to a degree where you can consider him one of the best in the league at hit scan. But then also his tracer was really, really great when you wanted Profit on a projectile hero. I'm really happy to see Profit and Fitz both stay with this roster, and I'm also really happy to see Gesture here too. So now let's talk about the final remaining player. That's Creative. Creative, I mean, I don't know how many times I've said this video, but Creative also really impressed me last season. The season before this one, we already knew he had a really, really good Ana, which was just emphasized this season. But then also when we saw him flex onto the other flex supports, he was pretty damn good on them. I would like to see this team still pick up another flex support just in case Creative isn't an all-round flex god on flex support. I'd like to see them get Blastro, for example. But I don't think I'd be worried going into next season with Creative as your only flex support, as I would with some other players in the league. So overall, for this roster, I'm actually really happy they've made some big changes. I think they needed this going into a new season, a new game, a new start. I really like this. I'm happy that they've kept Prophet and Fitz. That is an absolutely incredible DPS line. Gesture, I think many are going to pose as a bit of a question mark for the team, but I don't think that's the case. They're most definitely going to get more tanks, I think, going into Overwatch 2. I think any team with a single tank for Overwatch 2 is a foolish choice for them to make, but I think Gesture being on this roster for Overwatch 2 is a phenomenal choice from them. I think it's really good that they've kept him, purely because of how flexible we've seen him be in the past, and we can just expect that flexibility to continue. And then Creative, I'm happy he's remained. I wouldn't have been upset if he left, to be honest, but I also hope they get another flex support to put around him. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.